Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, this is my last live stream for today. I just felt the need to do these live streams. I'm like, I might as well go ahead and do them while I have the time and while I have these thoughts in my mind. So, yesterday I met with my book club and we discussed the book, Afeni Shakur, Evolution of a Revolutionary, and it's by Jasmine Guy. So we had a great discussion. I encourage you all who are on Facebook to like our Facebook page. And the Facebook page is Reading as Activism. Again, that's Reading as Activism. I encourage everyone to like that page and to join the discussions. We meet on the last Saturdays of each month. We discuss great books about Black people, written by Black people from all over the Black diaspora. So that's from, America, from Africa, and other places. So I encourage you all to join the discussion and to join the group and like the page, especially the brothers. We need more brothers to participate in these discussions so that we can have the male perspective on a lot of these issues. Unfortunately, a lot of times, like I'm one of the few men that join the discussion. So I encourage the brothers to come out to join the discussion. All people are welcome to the discussion, but I'm looking for the brothers. We need to have more brothers involved in the discussion. And we just need more brothers to read. I'm sure there are plenty of brothers that read great books all the time, but we would like to have you join the discussion. So we discussed this book. It's a very interesting book. And so for this video, I'm going to provide like a review of the book and then just branch off and discuss some of the topics raised in the book without really going into exactly what the book is necessarily talking about. So this is a very interesting book. It's about Afeni Shakur's life. And I'm sure by now most people know that Afeni Shakur is Tupac Shakur's mom. She was a Black Panther, a very instrumental member of the Black Panther Party in New York City. She went through a trial where 21 members of the Black Panther Party were charged with various criminal offenses, trumped up charges. And, she talks about that experience in this book. Also she talks about her experiences as a single mother, as somebody who was addicted to crack and everything. And we learn a little bit about Tupac. So this is my overall view of the book. I think it's a great book. It's well written, despite what some of the people in the group said. I think that it's well written. It will keep you entertained. It is a easy read. I was able to read this book over a couple of days. And as usual, like I ended up reading the book like the last couple of days before our meeting, which I need to quit doing. But I ended up reading it at the last minute. And it was easy to do. It wasn't like a challenge. It didn't feel like work. It didn't feel like a homework assignment or anything because it was a captivating story. So it's basically like allowing you to eavesdrop on a very great conversation between two women, Jasmine Guy, the famous actress from A Different World, and Afeni Shakur. So it's like you're a fly on the wall listening to their intimate conversations about Shakur's life. So that makes it very intriguing and very interesting. There are a couple of critiques that I have about the book, as some people raised during our discussion. One of the critiques is this: like, I wanted to know more about Tupac's upbringing. There wasn't much information about that in this particular book. Like, she references Tupac, and I get that some people may say, well, be of the opinion that it should just be about her and her life and all that kind of stuff, and not really focus on other people. But one of the main reasons why we would even be interested in her story is because of her relationship to Tupac. So that's one criticism. And also another criticism is this: they did not talk about Tupac's father much in this book, so we barely know anything about him. I wanted to know more about her and her relationship with Tupac's father. Like, how did they meet? What kind of person was he when they were in a relationship, and all of those types of things. Instead, all we get are these negative, disparaging comments about him being absent and being a quote unquote sperm donor without hearing more of his perspective or more about him as a person. And the interesting thing is, and this is one quick little spoiler, the interesting thing is, this is a man that she hooked up with and got pregnant by while she was married to another man. So I was interested in knowing more about that. Another thing that I was interested in knowing more about is her experience in the Black Panther Party. Like, and I know that that was only a fragment of her life, but it's something that they briefly discussed. And I thought that there was more that could have been discussed. And as some people said, there have been plenty of books written about the Black Panther Party. We know this, but each book is different. Each book tells a different story about the experience in the Black Panther Party. And it would have been great to hear more about her experience in the Black Panther Party. She tells us some interesting story about Huey P. Newton. I'm not going to spoil that, so I encourage you to check out the story. Check out the book to read about that. And she tells us some other things that are very interesting about her experience. But I just wanted to know more. I was hungry for more information about that experience in the Black Panther Party. So that's one criticism that I have about the book. But otherwise, I think that it was a great book, and I highly encourage people to check it out and to read it. Despite those critiques of the book. Another thing that comes up in this book is the issue of gender roles, like whether or not there are gender roles for men and women. And it's not directly discussed in that way, but it's something that came up in our book discussion about this. Because in this book, Afeni talks about how she basically had like what we would consider masculine traits. Like she was assertive, aggressive, combative. Like she would literally fight people, fight people like, since she was a kid, through adulthood or whatever. And many times people associate those traits with being masculine. And somewhere in this book, she talks about like the absence of Black men defending and protecting Black women. And she alludes to the fact that that's because of that circumstance, that is why some Black women end up taking on these masculine traits because of the absence of strong men. And I think that there is some truth to that. Like I think that there is some truth to that. If the man is absent and he's not in a position to defend and protect, then too often women end up taking on these masculine traits. And I do believe that they are masculine traits. I do believe in gender roles. I think that men and women are biologically different for a reason. Men have more muscle mass than women as a whole. Now, of course, you have exceptions where there's exceptionally strong women, some women that are stronger than men and all that kind of stuff. But as a rule, men are physically stronger than women. So men would take on the role as the hunter, the gatherer, the protector and all that kind of stuff. And I think in many ways, those roles continue today. And I do believe that the man should take on the role of protector and defender and leader in the household. And that doesn't mean that a man should be a dictator in the household or anything like that. But he should be a leader in the house. And as a leader, that doesn't mean you don't consider the views of the woman or anything like that. I believe in mutual consultation, and I believe that men should, relationships should be a partnership. But at the end of the day, there has to be a leader, and I think that that leader should be the man. Another thing that comes up in this story is, this whole question of single parent households. I think that that's a factor that's in the background, because in this situation, you had Afeni Shakur raising her children in a single parent household. and there are problems that erupt as a result of that, like things that happen. And it's not solely a result of the single parent household, but I think that that's a contributing factor in in some of the problems that later would emerge in their family. And it just made me think about this epidemic that we have in the Black community of the single parent household, where over 70% of our households are single parent, female led households. And I think that that's a detriment to our community and our society when you have households where the man is physically absent from the household. Um, I think that that impacts young men. Like they're not given a role model or a blueprint or a roadmap on manhood. So because of that, they cling to negative images of manhood, uh, negative perceptions of what a man should do, and they lose respect for male authority and stuff like that. And so you do see problems in our community that can go back to, this single parent household syndrome that exists in our community. And that's a real thing. And that's not to say that everybody in a single parent household becomes some bad person or whatever, or has problems. Because for myself, I was raised in a single parent household, even though like my father was present in my life and he did have an impact in my life. I was raised in a single parent household. Uh, that didn't stop me from achieving in life. That didn't prevent me from doing certain things or whatever. And my father, even though he didn't live in the household, he was a part of my life and he did provide some guidance in my life. But I think that a lot of times that is missing from a lot of young Black men's lives. And because of that, some Black men, young Black men, gravitate towards gangs and all this other stuff and other problems that we see in our community. And if you're not given a functional example of what a relationship should be like in terms of the role of a man in a relationship, the example of a man taking care of a woman or uh, being loving and caring towards a woman, if you don't have that example, it's going to be hard for you to navigate relationships and marriage in particular. So I think that that was a very important issue raised in the book. Another issue is the issue of polygamy. Um, that's an issue that was raised in this book as well, because Afeni Shakur was actually involved in a polygamous marriage. Like she was married to a man who had a wife. Like the man had a wife and kids, and then she moved into the guy's house and became his second wife. So that made me think about this whole issue around polygamy. And we hear a lot of these quote unquote hotep type people promote this, and even these hotep women promote this idea of polygamy as a solution to a lot of these problems, like the problem of single parent households, the problem of the lack of numbers of Black men compared to Black women and all that kind of stuff, because of problems like incarceration and violence, and a big percentage of Black men being gay and all that kind of stuff. So to deal with that, like one of the things that people have talked about is polygamy. Men having multiple wives and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just going to share my thoughts about that briefly. The first thing I'll say is this, like, as far as polygamy is concerned, um, I have several thoughts about it. The first thing I want to, as I mentioned during my discussion, a lot of people will be quick to condemn polygamy when they are actually in polygamous types of situations. When they're in these types of situations, for instance, like a woman can be in a relationship where she knows the man is seeing multiple women, so a woman will tolerate that, or, be in that situation. But that same woman will be talking about how they couldn't be in a polygamous type of situation. So, that's one thing. And then like even serial monogamy, like when you're going from one person to the next, constantly rotating women into your, in and out of your life, or men or whatever, there's not much of a huge difference between that and polygamy. So that's the first point that I want to talk about, like just like the whole hypocrisy around people criticizing polygamy and stuff. But for me, like, polygamy is not something that I would seriously consider. I don't agree with it, and personally, it's not something that's for me. I don't think that it's fair to be in a polygamous relationship, just on a basic concept of fairness. I believe in the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto me, unto you. Like, I couldn't imagine myself in a situation where I'm a quote unquote brother, husband, sharing a woman with another man or anything like that. I can't even imagine myself being in a relationship with a woman that's seeing some other guy on the side or anything like that. So there's no way in hell I would allow that. So I wouldn't want a woman to be in that situation where she experiences me seeing all these other people and all that kind of stuff, and has to deal with her own jealousy and its impact on her life and all that kind of stuff. So that, for that reason, I wouldn't do it. And then also, if you're in a polygamous type of situation, you can't realistically expect those women not to dip outside of the marriage as well. Like, here you are splitting your time between all these women. They're going to need somebody. They're going to likely go to somebody outside of the marriage and all that kind of stuff. So, that's my thought about that. But I think the issue of disparities in numbers between Black men and women is something that's significant in our community that does have to be addressed, because some people want to pretend like that's not a real problem. I was having this discussion and somebody was like, "Oh, I don't have any problem getting guys." Like, that's not really the issue. Like, the issue is not you as an individual having trouble getting guys. The issue is as a collective. And then we're also talking about the quality of men, like an educated man. We're not talking about a 50-year-old rapper or something like that. We're talking about, or some jail person or something like that. We're talking about, a man that can provide, and, somebody that's of that stature and stuff like that. And the fact of the matter is, educated Black men are far outnumbered by educated Black women. And it does create, all kinds of social issues and dynamics and stuff. And that brings me to another point that was raised in this book. It's like the fact that Afeni Shakur ended up in a relationship, or what she thought was a relationship, with a guy that was in prison. And this guy wasn't like some political prisoner. This was just a regular thug in jail or whatever. And it just, the fact that she would get in a relationship with a guy that's incarcerated, and she pointed out how she felt all stupid because at the end of the day, the guy that was incarcerated was simply using her. He had other women and all this and that. And she was talking about how stupid she felt and how it damaged her self-esteem and all that kind of stuff. But it just made me think about so many Black women that find themselves in these types of relationships where they're, with these quote unquote thugs or bad boys. And I'm just like, what is that about? Like, why is it that so many women gravitate towards those kind of men? Whereas they would label, some women, let me put that in quotes, some women would label a person like me, an educated Black man, as a so-called educated lame or a sucker or something like that. And you see this stuff on social media too. You see, like, for instance, on TikTok, for example, you have all these women clowning nice guys and stuff, but yet celebrating the quote unquote toxic Black man. And these same women turn around and complain about the absence of strong, positive, good Black men and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's one point that I wanted to raise. So just bear with me a second. I'll be right back. So for those people that are just joining, what I'm doing is I'm I'm talking about this book called Afeni Shakur, Evolution of a Revolutionary, by Jasmine Guy, and it's about Afeni Shakur's life. And many people know she is Tupac's mother. She was a Black Panther leader. So I was just highlighting some things that I talked about in my group discussion, my book club. And again, I encourage people to like that page, join the discussion, especially the brothers. We need more brothers to join the group. The group is on Facebook. It's Reading as Activism. Like that page. When I get a chance, I'll post the link to the page in the description box and in the comments. So another issue that came up was just her experience with the Black Panther Party. Again, as I mentioned before, I think she could have said more about that, but I want to focus on the lessons that could be learned from the Black Panther Party experience. And as we know, like the Black Panther Party was a revolutionary organization. They were a socialist organization. Um, Many of the people in the Black Panther Party didn't believe in God, because they subscribed to, many of them subscribed to Marxism and Leninism, and this idea of dialectical materialism, which is and a lot of people that agree with those philosophies are also atheists. So faith was something that the Black Panther parties didn't emphasize, and that's one of the criticisms that Afeni Shakur raises about the Black Panther Party, about their lack of faith in God and all that kind of stuff, and how that was to their detriment, how that had a major impact on them. It made it possible for them to be easier destroyed, easier for them to be destroyed by the government. Another thing is, she talked about them not consulting the elders, not dealing with the elders the way they should have, or consulting them and stuff like that. And I think that that's a valid point. I think that both of those points are valid. A lot of times, young people think that they have all the answers. They think that they know everything and all that kind of stuff. And we live in a youth driven type of society, a society that values youth and places them above the elders. Whereas in traditional African societies, elders were held in high esteem. Elders were listened to. Elders were sought after for advice and guidance. And, they were highly respected. But in this society, we talk about old people. We diss people by calling them old and all that kind of stuff, instead of taking from their wisdom and their experiences. And we see that a lot with the Black Lives Matter movement, of, for instance, like, some people had told me they tried to reach out to the Black Lives Matter movement, activists that I know, and they basically talked about how they were being shunned and their views weren't considered. And I think that that's to the detriment of the movement, because these elders, they have traveled the road. They have certain experiences based on their experience, what they've gone through. They have certain knowledge and certain wisdom, and we should go to our elders. And the movement should go to elders. And at this point, even though I don't like to consider myself like this, in some ways, even I'm an elder, because I was involved in the student movement when I was a kid, an activist back in the day and stuff like that. And I'm still involved in activism now. So it's like you would think that these young people would go to elders for guidance. But no, too often they think they know everything. They think they have all the answers. They think that they're the most revolutionary. And I think that that's to their detriment. And also another point that Afeni Shakur raised is that, the Black Panthers were in over their heads. They really didn't know what they were getting involved in. They didn't know I think they underestimated the extent to which the enemy would go to destroy the movement. And also, another point that was brought out in documentaries that I've seen on the Black Panther Party is just like how they grew super fast, within a very short amount of time, and they didn't thoroughly vet members at all. And because of that, you had all this infiltration, all these agents and agent provocateurs, informants, snitches, and all that kind of stuff, basically infesting the party and destroying the party from within. Um, so yeah, that's a interesting point. And back to like the spiritual guidance, I think because of the lack of belief in God or spiritual guidance, you had a lot of the Black Panther Party members fall into problems with drug addiction, including Afeni Shakur, including even one of the co-founders of the Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton. Um, so that's another thing. Another thing that comes up from this. Oh, shout out to my brother, man. Thanks for tuning in, man. My brother Stairs in the chat. Shout out to you. Shout out to sister, and shout out to everybody that's tuning in. I appreciate y'all coming through. B1 for life. Shout out to you. And the person with the U as in their name, I don't want to mispronounce the name, but shout out to you too. But yeah, I mean, I do think that was I think that was to a detriment. Like, not having faith in God, like anything that you can't, like, I think that that's to your detriment. Like, I think belief in God is like one of the reasons why, if not the primary reason why we were even created as human beings and stuff. Another issue which I touched on was drug addiction. That's something that's raised in this book, and it's very disturbing what happens, like how she gets addicted to crack and stuff like that. So she ends up being pregnant by a man who's incarcerated. And then, as I pointed out, she finds out that he's cheating on her or whatever. And she decides that she doesn't want to have the baby. And, so she goes to these different people to get an abortion, and she wasn't able to at first. And then she decides to smoke crack to kill the baby. She literally says, "Oh, at least that's the story that she tells in the book. She smokes crack because she heard that will kill the baby, but that doesn't, and then it causes her to have this out of control crack addiction, where she ends up basically leaving her children to fend for themselves while she goes on these crack binges." So it's very disturbing. And eventually she has like this late term abortion, and she talks about the process and everything. And that just made me think about this whole issue of abortion. And I'm really interested in hearing like what y'all think about a woman's right to choose and all that kind of stuff. Like uh, when it comes to this issue, because she has this abortion later in life, and then she actually says that even though she talks about, even though people had a right to choose, at the end of the day she literally killed a baby. So I'm really interested in hearing what y'all think about that. um so yeah, those are my quick thoughts about this book. I encourage y'all to check it out. Again, one of my criticism with the book is like, why didn't she say more about Tupac? Like, what kind of kid was Tupac growing up? Like, what kind of lessons did she impart to Tupac? What did she teach him? Uh, that was missing from this book. And, I think that was a problem. And then I want to ask y'all again, like, why do you think so many Black women like these quote unquote thugs and bad boys and all that kind of stuff? Like, they're fascinated with it. Some of them, let me say some of them. But anyway, yeah, I see. So if she wasn't given the right to abort, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Um, yeah, I mean, I just wonder about that whole issue. Like, oh, so Astaire, you want to join to talk about abortion? So let me see if I can add you real quick. Shout out to Day. Thanks for tuning in. All right. Let me see if I can. How can I? Oh, what I can do is send you the link. I'm gonna Yeah, so Astaire, I'll send you the link on Facebook. I'm gonna send it to you on Facebook so you could join. Okay, so Astaire, I sent you the link so you could join if you want to, man. Shout out to Day. Day's in the house. Oh yeah, Psycho. Shout out to my man Psycho. Psycho said that he's reevaluating waiting his position on abortion. Um, yeah, man, I was just thinking about that, like the depth of that, like how she described like having this late term abortion, man. It's very disturbing. Um, Shout out to my man Water Sniper. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, so I'm going to share this right here. Shout out to Day. So Day said, TV tells people who they should like and who they shouldn't. It dictates the beauty standards. If we only see thugs and dealers on TV, that's what we gravitate to. Yeah, that's true. Like if that's celebrated, it's celebrated in on television and celebrated in the music and all that kind of stuff. So of course that's what people want to gravitate towards. That's what they're gonna see as cool, or the person they should be with. All right, so here's another comment. So Dave said it's a woman's right. I'm sorry, y'all need to stay out of what a woman should do with her body. Yeah, that's the main argument that people make about hold on. Yeah, so that's the main argument in support of abortion. So hopefully, oh, and she said especially, hold on, let me. And Dave said especially if they won't be there and they don't want the baby by her. And I think that those are valid points. I'm really interested in hearing Astaire's perspective. So hopefully he'll be able to join. So Astaire, did you get the link? If you can comment. So hopefully he'll be able to join. No, man, I don't Water Sniper, I don't watch. Oh, there's my brother. Okay. All right, I'm gonna have you join in a second. Yeah, so Water Sniper, I don't watch Cynthia, man. I don't watch Cynthia G. I'm not subscribed to her. I had enough of her nonsense. So let me add my brother in. Hey, Astaire, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, brother.
Hold on. Please.
Let me put on my Malcolm X glasses so I can let y'all know right quick.
You all hear me? Yeah, Astaire, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. All right, man. So what's up? So everybody, this is my brother Astaire Saka. Okay, everybody can hear me good. Yeah, so real quick, I just want to go to what Psycho said. He said, what made me question my position on abortion was the fact that I've seen abortion being weaponized. So, Astaire, tell me what you think about this issue. You said you wanted to chime in on this, man.
Yeah, man. First off, let me just say this. As a man, a male rather, a man, I don't have the right to dictate to any woman what to do with her body. Um, but in a likewise manner, I don't have the right to dictate to a crack addict to stop smoking crack or a heroin addict to stop shooting up. Me not having the ability to dictate one's behavior does not undermine the moral issue or the lack of morals in an issue. Um, this abortion thing, really, this is not even our argument. We have adopted the white man's outlook on things. In the past, our family, mom's family from down south in Alabama and such, and if there was an unwanted child, somebody else in the family would just take up the responsibility of raising that child. Um, our adopting of this liberated laissez-faire sexuality stuff has destroyed our community, absolutely destroyed it. Then undermined the family structure. Then going, of course, with me being a minister, and I don't care how anybody takes it or whatever, or what they might say, the white man, this and that. But listen, in the scripture, if you look in the Old Testament, whenever the people were in a backsliding, wicked situation, there were two behaviors that were like real prevalent: the killing of the sacrificing of babies, and homosexuality. And right now, that's running rampant in our community, and it's no coincidence that, in conjunction with this, is the abandonment of spirituality. That's why the Black Lives Matter movement that's going on right now is not going to do anything, but make noise and be undermined. If you look at all the movements that we've had in our community that were of any success, spirituality was at the center of it. Whether we're talking about Noble Drew Ali, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Civil Rights Movement, the Abolitionist Movement, and the ending of the slave trade, spirituality was in the center of that. Right now, we just have a lot of quote unquote woke people, with their conspiracy theories, and but yeah, I mean, so that's my take. The abortion.
Yeah, you're right about that. In those conspiracy theories, man. Yeah, and it's like the new woke is, anti-religion and anti-God. And no disrespect to my man Psycho, like he's a atheist and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not really talking about him. But I'm just saying, like, that's like the whole new woke thing is to be anti-religion, like anti-Christianity, anti-Islam, anti-Judaism, just anti-God. That's like the new woke. Like, people like Brother Polite, these other atheists or whatever, they promote this idea that you're like unconscious if you believe in religion and stuff. And as you pointed out, like many of the movements that woke Black people up were inspired by religion. Like even this, like the civil rights movement, they were motivated and inspired to continue because of their faith in God and stuff. That's what held them through. That's what made it possible for them to face the police dogs, to face the Klan and the brutality of the police and all that kind of stuff, to still continue despite the assassinations of King and Malcolm X.
Yeah, man. And it's just like, to me, man, kind of going back to like backtracking to the abortion thing, man. Hey, man, what I'm gonna say is gonna sound ridiculous as hell, man. But this whole sexual revolution thing, that was spurred on, by the advent of the birth control pill and modernization of abortions is listen, I'm not telling to tell somebody what they can do. That's a position that we as men don't really have an informed understanding of. But when it becomes a form of birth control for these young women to have abortion after abortion, I know somebody that's had like 7 abortions, you know, that's 7 children who,
7 abortions, like,
yeah,
wow.
nothing. I know people, I've heard of people that have had more than that. Now you could of course point to the man that's doing the unprotected unprotected action. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I ain't mad at you, black man, but you know, we gotta be responsible about what we doing. You understand what I'm saying? And the flip of that is the sisters gotta raise the bar up. If you know this guy is not gonna be a good father or something you don't want to be tied to for the rest of your life, hey, no access. And
Yeah, so let me ask you about this. It's kind of connected to that. And it's something that I brought up earlier about black women and bad boys. Like a lot, some, bad boys or thugs and all that kind of stuff. And, one of the things in this particular book that I read, they were talking about how Afeni Shakur actually got in this relationship with a guy who was incarcerated. And it wasn't like he was on some political prisoners type stuff. It was just a regular criminal incarcerated. She got pregnant by this guy, and all that kind of stuff. And she later found out he was not really in love with her. He was seeing all these other women and stuff like that. And it made me think about, why is it that so many, and I'm not saying all or even most, but why is it that so many black women gravitate towards quote unquote thugs or the bad boy? What do you think about that, man?
well, you know what? I think it's a couple of factors in play. All right. First thing I say is I think that the idea of black manhood has been so negatively skewed because we have been systematically emasculated for hundreds of years. And I think that when you see the thug, he is defiant to the will and way of the oppressor. So I think there's a certain appeal that goes with that. Like look back at the movie The Butler. All right. Now, for those of us like yourself that are educated and working in a professional environment and working in Mr. Charlie's house, um, the reality is that Butler, the guy in the Butler is part of your life. You know what I'm saying? But we know at the same time, my man.
So you saying the educated black man is the butler type character?
Hell yeah, you the Butler. Hell
So
yeah.
break that down, man. Break that down. Explain to people what you're
Man,
talking
listen,
about,
man. The Butler was the weakest Negro ever, man. His woman didn't respect him. His man's was smashing his wife. You know what I'm saying? He's at work swallowing his own testicles, man. You know what I'm saying? Being seen but not heard, being present but being not a factor. And being in corporate America as a black man, at some point or the other, that's who you are, because we are a threat. Dealing with this right now. You are a threat as a black man in corporate America, because in the back of their mind, way in the recesses, you're a monkey. Right? Then, a little bit beyond that, you're a savage. A little bit beyond a criminal sexual deviant. And you are as strong as an ox. And you're just a stone's throw away from blowing the hell up when they do that little passive aggressive white boy stuff. So you learn how to present yourself as non-threatening as possible, so that this man doesn't exclude you. It's like I was gonna do a video myself about integration, accommodation, or separation, right? And in the past, in our movements, we've had to look at those as 3 separate things, but the reality is they're one thing. They should all 3 work together. Anyhow, is that working in corporate America as a black man, you kind of learn an accommodationist model, or you're gonna be packing your box. So I think that some of our women look for strength, somebody that's not going to conform, that's not going to bow. And I think that on a subconscious level, the thug who thumbs his nose at the law, who thumbs his nose at other black men, who thumbs his nose at his woman. I think for some women that is attractive and desirable. So I think that this guy it's him against the world, I think that they see that as manhood. And you're being kind. I'm gonna say 90% of these women like that kind of man. 90% of them. Most of them like that. Most of them like that. And hey, listen, I know that's not popular, but most of them like that. Ask them like this: Carlton from the Fresh Prince or Will Smith? Most chicks were geared towards Will Smith, who was, even though he was a good guy on the show, he was more rebellious than a Carlton. You know what I'm saying? So I think that we see that as strength. And then you add onto the then couple with that cultural thing, you get the fact that for the younger women, that imagery is superimposed on everything. Like, we older, middle-aged guys, man, in our day and age, man, if you had tattoos and long hair, you had just come out of the penitentiary. But nowadays, that is the norm. And it's expected that, for these younger people, like in their early 20s and all this kind of stuff, the sleeve tattoos and the tattoos on your neck and face and all that stuff. When I was in my 20s, when Tupac was popular, all of that stuff alluded to criminality. Tattoos on your face meant that you had a life sentence, right? And them tattoos all down your arms and all that stuff has something to do with jail stuff. And I think that what a lot of us not tripping off of is how much of our modern hip hop culture is centered around being incarcerated. The whole, from the way we present ourselves to the way we talk, all of this stuff is about criminality. So I think that's the image that people gravitate to. And the women respect that as strength.
Yeah, those are some interesting points, man. Day said she knows women who love Carlton, but that's not most women.
Well, sister,
most women don't.
Let me tell you something. They fell in love with Carlton. I bet they didn't want Carlton when he was in their 20s. Carlton, come on, let's cut the BS. Carlton doesn't look like he's gonna break y'all back. Carlton doesn't look like he's gonna put y'all in y'all place. Now, how many women have you known that said they want a man to put them in their place? Now, the way me and you was raised, women are equals, so you don't put an equal in their place. But how many of these broads have you heard say that they want some man that's gonna put them in their place? Think about the little sexual stuff that goes on now. All these chicks on TikTok talking about choking them and all of this. Listen, man, Carlton's not doing that. Well, this Carlton might, but
All right, man. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this on the last question, man. Oh man. So let me ask you this, man. I wish you were here for that one I did about Will and Jada Pinkett.
Oh man, that's man.
I wish you were here for that. We may have to do a separate video about that, man, sometime later, just to hear your thoughts.
But anyway,
yeah, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about polygamy? Because that was something that was raised in this book as well. Because like Afeni Shakur actually married this guy who was married to another woman, and they had kids. So she joined somebody else's union and became a part of the family. Like, so she was the second wife. And that was something we discussed in our book club. And man, you should come to some of our book clubs, man. You should check them out.
I have to check it out, man. But I'll tell you, this is my thought. First off, I think polygamy is natural. I think that it is a natural response. But let's get our minds out of the gutter here. In our day and age, most of the time when you hear younger people talking about polygamy, they really just thinking about some kinky sexual threesomes and stuff like that, man. And so all right, so my answer is kind of complex. So it's in the natural, right? I think it is natural to have more than one woman. I think that it is conducive economically. And I think that given the lack of morals nowadays, I think a lot of people are in a polygamous relationship, whether they know it or not. But as a Christian believer, I know that you got the natural and then you got the supernatural, the physical, and then you got the spiritual. Monogamy is a spiritual commitment. It is supposed to go to another level in terms of unlocking who you are to subdue the natural, where you can subdue the flesh to the point where this one person is all you can, it is it. Um, so in my opinion, if that is what blows your hair black back and you guys can make that work, I think it's not my business. And I think that it's absolutely hypocritical for all of these girl power people to be up here talking about a woman's right to reproductive rights, and gay people can get married but then have a problem with polygamy. um you know what I'm saying? I think that I think that if you guys can make that work, make it happen. I think that if you look at our traditional societies, going back to the motherland, I think polygamy is actually more of the commonplace because it's easier for the group to strive as opposed to two individuals, and then this woman getting mad because you looking over here at that. And then some people might say, well, can a woman have more than one husband? No, because that is unnatural. And the reason I'm saying that is because just the brutal facts of reality about reproduction and being able to properly identify who's related to who. And the more advanced societies don't have women with more than one husband in terms of technology, civilization, and advancement of tools and things of that sort. You can't give me an example of that. Now I can give you plenty of examples of societies that had men with more than one wife that actually advanced quite a bit. And I'm not trying to throw it out there, and you may not necessarily be aware of it, but we're the result of on our father's side of the family, there's polygamy going on there, man. So um, I if y'all like it, do it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I, I don't see, so I don't understand the double standards, but I have to go back to my original statement is a lot of people nowadays are saying that really as a cover for some, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said when he was asked about polygamy, and Muhammad speaks back in the day, a lot of people have dirty minds and they can't get their minds away from that illicit sex and think about all of the other things that can go with that. Like, look, what kind of generational wealth could somebody build if they have let's say three people all putting the money into one pile and raising the children together and buying businesses and so forth. Um, and the man is truly taking care of all the parties. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it could really work. But you gotta, this, we're not talking about no love and hip hop type stuff. This not that. We're not talking about that.
Yeah, so you made some great points. So the last thing I want to ask you before we go, some interesting points. I expressed my views earlier about it. But I wanted to know, like, what do you think about gender roles? Because that's something that comes up. Like during my book club discussion, we were talking about whether or not there are gender roles and all that kind of stuff. Because one thing that came out in this book was that Afeni Shakur, like, basically had what would be typically classified as masculine type of traits. Like she was, every real aggressive, you know, uh, combative and all that kind of stuff. Quick to fight, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And those are traits that you equate to men. Like those are traditional like traits that are associated with men. And what some people would say, well, that's toxic masculinity as well, and all that kind of stuff. So what do you think? What do you think about like gender roles? Do you think there are roles for women and roles for men? And what do you think about the people that say, oh, there's no gender roles, like you can do and be who you want to be and do what you want to do?
All right. So if we're talking about, well, I think that there are certain things that biologically are a side effect of testosterone, like aggression, independence, so on and so forth. But gender roles are ascribed to us via our culture. Our culture tells us what our gender roles are. Like there are some cultures where the women go out and do all of the work and the men stay home with the children. I think that they're culturally assigned. Um, now, uh, as far as it relates to like what you were just saying about Afeni and everything, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking that there may have been some things that sister saw when she was a young woman that led her to have those kind of characteristics. I don't think biology made her like that. And I think that we as human beings, we are born with a blank slate mentally, and we are taught every human behavior is learned. So you learn, like you see the little boy, he about 5 years old. His mama tell him, "Hey, cut up all that crying. You a big. I thought you was a big boy." So what ends up happening is this little fella grows up from 5 years old to however old, being emotionally oppressed because he was taught that a man doesn't express his feelings. Or you might have a little girl, and at least back in our day, she got an easy bake oven for Christmas, and she was being taught how to cook and so on and so forth. And that's how we got all of these good recipes passed on down from slavery and so forth. It's all taught behavior. And I think that there's a reason that those have been pretty standard over the time, is because they're time tested. um Hold on, what's this guy say? Do what a human naturally do to survive. Man, get out of here with that girly man shit, man. Who is that, man? Man, listen, man, a lot of these black women are aggressive. Cut that shit out, man. These people, you growing up in the hood, all of us are aggressive. All of us have been put in survival situations. And it's like all this, oh, black women are the only ones. Some of these women are out of control, and they have not had a proper example of a strong man. And they've never learned that sometimes men need you to be quiet and submit. And I know nobody wants to say that, but for real, nature hates a monster. No animal on this planet has two heads, man. And I'm not talking about nothing sexual or nothing, but I'm talking about two different brain centers, and one of them is somebody's got to be the leader and somebody's got to be the follower. And this foolishness is 50 years old. 50 years old. It's not time tested. And since we've been embracing that kind of foolishness, our families have fizzled and our communities have become dangerous. Our young men are angry and are filling up every damn jail. I don't want to hear about no pipeline to prison. It's about the choices we're making. So all of that foolish girly man stuff like my man just posted, man, go on with that, man. You know what I'm saying? Me and my brother grew up in the damn projects, man. And listen, if you wasn't aggressive, you was gonna get steamrolled, man or woman. But some of these women need to sit back and be quiet. Y'all can take it or let it alone, for real. But
yeah, so somebody left this comment. They said you sound like a she-man woman hater. I think they're talking about you. Wait, let's see. Hold on.
who is that?
I don't know if you can see. Can you see the comments, man?
I could.
Can you see the
Like
chat?
man, woman hater. No,
I don't know if they're talking about you, but let me share it. I'm just curious.
probably is one of these. Yeah. No, Monica, little mama. No, I'm not a woman hater. I love the black man. I was in the Nation of Islam. The black woman is the black man's greatest greatness. She is the epitome of strength and beauty. But all of this being all out of control. You think them sisters in Nigeria challenging they men the way y'all are? You think those sisters in Kenya are doing that? You think the black woman was challenging the black man for his role in leadership when we was able to build pyramids, map the stars, and lay the blueprint of civilization? Do you think the black woman was challenging the black man's role when Mr. Charlie was hanging us from the tree? Do you think the black woman was trying to emasculate black men and put them in dresses when we had to duck and hide to read and write? Get out of here with that pseudo BS. Get your mind right, little mama. You don't know what you talking about or who you talking to. I am not my brother. Hey, my brother's a strong man, but all of that, let's entertain this foolishness. Get on out of here with that. I I bet you ain't got no man with that foolishness. Say what you gonna say about me, but I bet ain't no man gonna you got some little girly man or some down low brother with all of that stuff you talking. He man, woman hater. I love the black woman. It's a queen across the hallway. My mother, the strongest woman I know, the strongest person I know. Shut the hell up with that. All right, man, get on out of here with that. I love the black woman. Get your mind right. Funny,
All right, man.
weird ass. Get a man.
Oh, and she said, I don't know if they're just trolling. She said, and why are we challenging you, American man? That's her last comment. But yeah, we could go on forever with that, man.
Little mama. Hey, but anyhow, let me go ahead and get on out of here, big bro. I ain't mean.
Yeah, man. Yeah, on that note, I'm gonna close it out. But we should do a meeting later where we talk, where I hear your perspective on this Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith thing.
Yeah, man.
Really
hey.
So I'll hit you up later. We could do that tonight. So y'all stay tuned.
This one, man.
So I told you, like Astaire said, like he's different from me. Like I'm gonna be all like try to balance things out and be all like politically correct a little bit and be sensitive to y'all needs and stuff.
Man, but no, man, it's all one love, man. I just like talking jazz, black man. But anyway, man, I'm gonna get with you though, big bro.
All right, man. Peace, everybody. Have a good one, and please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. Peace and blessings. Have a great day.